Before we begin, take a moment and ask yourself, when was the last time you heard something that truly changed the way you think? If you believe wisdom still matters in this noisy world, then don't just scroll, subscribe to Voice of Wisdom. Because here, we don't chase trends, we seek truth, we grow stronger, and we rise together. There was a man, ordinary, quiet, unseen by the world. He once believed failure was the end. Every time he stumbled, he thought life was punishing him. He tried, fell, and tried again, until the world began to laugh. People pointed fingers. They said he wasn't good enough, not smart enough, not strong enough. And little by little, he started to believe them. He stopped looking at the stars, stopped dreaming, stopped believing that life could still change. But one night, in a small room filled with silence, he looked into his reflection and saw a man he didn't recognize. A man who once had fire in his eyes, now drowning in self-doubt. And from that silence, a voice rose from within him. A mistake repeated more than once is a decision. Those words hit him like thunder. He realized it was no longer life holding him back, it was him. It wasn't fate that failed him, it was his fear. It wasn't the world that judged him, it was his own mind that chained him. That night he stopped making excuses. He stopped waiting for someone to believe in him. He stopped blaming his past, his pain, and his luck. He simply whispered, "Enough." And that single word was the first step toward a new life. Because sometimes change doesn't begin with motivation. It begins with exhaustion. When you are tired of your own lies, tired of pretending, tired of falling and not learning. That's when your soul wakes up. He wiped his tears, stood tall, and walked into the darkness. Not because he was no longer afraid, but because he finally chose to move forward, despite the fear. That night, he stopped dying inside and started living again. After the storm, he learned to sit in silence. No noise, no audience, no validation, just him and his thoughts. At first, the silence was heavy. It screamed louder than words. It brought back every failure, every regret, every broken promise he made to himself. But slowly he began to understand. Silence wasn't punishment. It was purification. Because when the world is loud, you can't hear your own soul. He stopped explaining himself to people who were never listening. He stopped seeking comfort from those who enjoyed seeing him weak. He realized, not everyone deserves to know your story. Some people only want to use your pain as their entertainment. So he withdrew, not out of pride but out of peace. He learned to smile without needing to prove anything. He learned that silence isn't emptiness, it's focus. The quieter he became, the more clearly he saw. He watched people talk big but do little. He learned that actions are the real language of truth. And for the first time he felt powerful. Not because he controlled others, but because he controlled himself. That's when he understood. The man who can stay silent even after being disrespected is not weak. He is dangerous, because he's no longer driven by ego, but by purpose. In silence, he rebuilt himself, layer by layer, wound by wound. And when he finally spoke again, his words carried weight, not noise. He no longer shouted to be heard, he spoke softly, and the world listened. He realized no one was coming to save him. No cheers, no applause, no comforting hand. The world did not owe him mercy. And for the first time he understood. He was entirely, profoundly alone. This life was his alone to carry. Every burden, every triumph, every scar, he must hold them himself. Not in loneliness, but in ownership of his existence. No one else could navigate his storms. No one else could shape his horizon. He stopped chasing people and started chasing purpose. No longer was he swayed by fleeting approval or distracted by empty praise. His eyes were fixed on the inner compass, on the quiet whisper of what mattered most. Every step forward was deliberate, every choice intentional, every action a seed sown for tomorrow. He compared himself not to others, but to who he was yesterday. Every morning he measured growth in inches of courage, in moments of patience, in the quiet victories of self-mastery. He let go of envy. He let go of resentment. He let go of the chains that bound his spirit. Comparison became meaningless because his only rival was the man he had been. And every day he became a little wiser, a little freer, a little more alive. He discovered joy in simplicity, strength in silence, and power in persistence. Fear no longer paralyzed him, and doubt no longer whispered lies. Every wound became a teacher, every failure a guide, every lonely night a lesson in resilience. He realized that life's meaning was not handed down but forged in fire, built in solitude, earned in sweat and tears. The journey within was endless, but it was sacred. Each day a page of his own epic, each choice a stroke of his own masterpiece. And in that sacred silence he found a profound truth. He was enough, he was capable, and he was alive in a way the world could never define or diminish. He discovered happiness is not found in having more, but in needing less. Not in possessions, not in recognition, not in the endless chase of approval. True contentment arose when he let go, when he shed the weight of desire, when he realized that simplicity itself is abundance. He learned that a calm mind, a silent heart, and a clear purpose are the true luxuries of life. Nothing outside could give him peace, he carried it within. Meditation in stillness, reflection in solitude, clarity and intention. These became his treasures, and with each quiet moment, his soul expanded, his perspective widened, and the trivial worries of the world slipped quietly away. Slow success built his character, shaping patience like a sculptor shaping stone. Pain became his teacher, whispering lessons that no comfort could provide. Every struggle, every setback, every disappointment was a step on the path toward mastery of self. He embraced discomfort. He welcomed challenge, because he understood that growth never comes in ease. And when he finally stopped chasing noise, peace found him. Not loud, not spectacular, but gentle, enduring, and profound. The clamor of the world could no longer reach him. He was anchored in himself, rooted in purpose, and surrounded by an invisible calm that no external chaos could disturb. He realized that true freedom was living unbound by expectation, unfettered by comparison, untouched by superficial desire. Happiness was not a place to arrive, but a state to cultivate. And in this awakening, he found the deepest truth. The more he needed less, the more he truly had. One day he smiled and said, "Life is like riding a bicycle. To keep your balance, you must keep moving. Not by forcing perfection, not by seeking approval, not by following paths laid by others. Balance was found only in motion, in persistence, in faith that every step, no matter how small, was part of the journey. He no longer sought applause, no cheers, no validation, no external reward. He simply walked his path, singing his own song, quietly, steadily, fearlessly. Each day became a canvas, each moment a brushstroke, each decision a note in the melody of his life. He no longer feared mistakes. He embraced them as teachers, guiding him toward wisdom, showing him the contours of his own strength. He discovered that growth was subtle, not loud or visible. It was the calm courage to face the unknown, the quiet resilience to rise after every fall, the clarity to choose purpose over distraction, the grace to forgive, the courage to let go. The world might never notice, and that no longer mattered, because his life was no longer a performance, but a masterpiece in progress. Because he finally understood, the goal was never perfection. Perfection is an illusion, a mirage that steals joy and clouds vision. The goal was growth. Growth in wisdom. Growth in patience. Growth in love. Growth in courage. Every struggle, every challenge, every lonely night was part of the process. A step along the path to becoming fully himself. He realized that life's beauty was not in the applause, but in the persistence. Not in perfection, but in the quiet victories of a heart that refuses to give up. He walked forward, undaunted by fear, undaunted by doubt, undaunted by the fleeting judgments of others. Because in the end, the journey itself was the triumph. And the song he sang was the purest, truest reflection of his soul.